Five Towns, A Tale of Love, Betrayal, and Redemption. Chapter 1, The Arrival of Hope. Five Towns was an idyllic place, nestled between rolling hills, surrounded by vast fields and sparkling lakes. It wasn't a large town, but its charm lay in its simplicity. People had their little routines, and the town hummed with a peaceful energy. No one expected much to change. But one autumn morning, everything did. Amelia, a young woman in her early 20s, arrived in Five Towns. She had heard of it before, a quiet town known for its tight-knit community and beautiful landscapes. She had been running from her past, trying to escape the memories that haunted her. So she decided to start over here. Her car rolled into the town's main square. She took in the small cafe on the corner, the post office with its peeling paint, and the market where people gathered each day. A sense of calm washed over her. She could feel the peace here, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could find happiness again. Chapter 2, Secrets Beneath the Surface. Despite the welcoming atmosphere of Five Towns, Amelia soon discovered that beneath the surface, there were secrets. She moved into a small cottage at the edge of town, hoping to keep to herself, but that didn't last long. Her neighbor, a middle-aged man named Thomas, quickly befriended her. He was a quiet man, but there was something about his eyes, haunted and tired, that made Amelia wonder about his past. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Thomas invited her over for tea. As they talked, he revealed that Five Towns had once been a bustling place, filled with opportunity and hope. But something had happened 20 years ago. A tragedy that no one in town liked to speak of. It's better if you don't know, Thomas said, his voice tinged with sadness. People here have their scars, Amelia. We all have our demons. Amelia, sensing there was more to the story, pressed for more details. But Thomas fell silent, his expression growing distant. She didn't push him any further. It seemed that everyone in Five Towns carried their own burdens. Chapter 3, The Enigmatic Woman. A few weeks after Amelia's arrival, she met Clara. Clara was unlike anyone Amelia had ever met before. She was stunningly beautiful, with dark hair that flowed like a river of night and piercing green eyes that seemed to read Amelia's soul. Clara was a woman of mystery, always well-dressed, always poised. Yet, there was a coolness about her that made people both attracted and wary. Amelia found herself intrigued. Clara wasn't from Five Towns originally. She had moved there only a few years ago. No one knew where she came from or what had brought her to such a small town. Yet, she fit in seamlessly, quickly becoming a figure of influence. One afternoon, Clara invited Amelia to her sprawling estate just outside of town. The house was large, elegant, and filled with old portraits, antique furniture, and a cold, unsettling atmosphere. As they sat in the grand parlor, Clara's demeanor shifted. She seemed almost nervous, as though she were hiding something important. "There are things in this town, Amelia," Clara said, her voice low. "Things that you're better off not knowing. Trust me when I say there are people here who will never let go of the past." Chapter 4: The Festival. The townspeople of 5 towns were preparing for the annual harvest festival. It was a time of celebration where everyone gathered in the square to enjoy music, food, and games. But for Amelia, this year's festival felt different. She couldn't shake the feeling that something ominous was looming over the town. The morning of the festival, she walked into the square where people were already setting up booths. She noticed Thomas talking to the mayor, his face strained, as though he were trying to hide something. Clara, too, was there, standing on the steps of her estate, watching the activity below. As the evening approached and the festival began in full swing, Amelia couldn't help but notice the tense atmosphere. There were smiles, but they didn't reach the eyes. Laughter echoed in the air, but it felt hollow. That night, after the fireworks had faded, a chilling discovery was made. The body of a local farmer, Richard Blackwell, was found near the town's river. He had been dead for hours. The shock reverberated through the town, and Amelia could sense that the tragedy from 20 years ago was tied to this death in ways she couldn't yet understand. Chapter 5: Unraveling the Past. The investigation into Richard Blackwell's death sent shockwaves through the town. The sheriff, a man named Hank Caldwell, began questioning everyone, but the people of 5 towns were tight-lipped. Amelia, though, was determined to get to the bottom of things. She started asking questions, visiting people, and piecing together the fragments of a story that everyone seemed to want to forget. One evening, she returned to Thomas's house, hoping for answers. She found him sitting in his chair, staring into the fire. The lines on his face were deeper than she remembered. "Thomas," she said softly, "tell me what happened 20 years ago. Why is everyone so afraid?" Thomas turned his gaze to her. For a moment, there was hesitation, but then, with a deep sigh, he spoke. 20 years ago, this town was shaken by a scandal. a young woman named Eliza. She was beautiful, smart, kind, was found dead near the river. The whole town was in mourning. People said it was an accident, but some of us knew it wasn't. Her death was no accident, and the one who killed her was someone no one would ever suspect. It tore this town apart, and we've never been the same since. Chapter 6: The Truth About Eliza. Amelia's investigation into Eliza Hayes's death led her down a dark path. She discovered that Eliza had been romantically involved with several of the town's most influential men, including the mayor, Gregory Howard. There were whispers that she had been carrying a secret, a child, and that the child's father might have been one of the powerful men in the town. Amelia also found out that Clara had been one of Eliza's closest friends, but after her death, Clara became reclusive. As Amelia dug deeper, she uncovered a shocking truth. Eliza had been planning to leave 5 towns with her child, but before she could escape, she was silenced. The townspeople, including Thomas and even Clara, had all known about the affair, but no one had ever spoken of it. The mayor, Gregory Howard, had used his influence to cover up the murder, manipulating everyone into silence. The more Amelia learned, the more she began to question everything she thought she knew about the people of 5 towns. Chapter 7: The Final Confrontation. As Amelia gathered evidence, she confronted Clara. The 2 women met in the parlor of Clara's mansion, the air thick with tension. "You know the truth, Clara," Amelia said, her voice shaking with anger. "You were Eliza's friend. You knew about her plans to leave, and you know who killed her." Clara's eyes grew dark. She had always been a woman of mystery, but now she seemed to unravel before Amelia's eyes. "You have no idea what you're talking about," Clara spat. "You think you can bring the past to light? You're just a girl trying to play detective. The truth is you'll never understand why we did what we did." But before Clara could say another word, there was a loud knock at the door. It was Thomas, and he looked panicked. "You need to leave," Thomas said urgently. "It's not safe for you here anymore. The past has a way of coming back to haunt us." Amelia's heart raced as she turned to face him. She finally understood there were people in 5 towns who would do anything to protect their secrets. Chapter 8: The Revelation. Amelia made one final decision. She went to the river where Eliza had been found all those years ago. As she stood at the edge, she felt a chill run down her spine. The truth was here, buried beneath the water, and she could feel the weight of the town's history pressing down on her. In a final act of courage, Amelia uncovered The truth, the full truth. Eliza had been murdered, but not by the man everyone had suspected. The killer was someone who had been overlooked, someone who had been ignored for far too long. And with that revelation, Amelia changed the course of 5 towns forever. The town would never be the same again, but maybe, just maybe, it could finally heal.